Let's get some prize picks in today, guys. This was a bit of a rough weekend. I gave two slips in last night's videos. Both went 3-1. This was the first one here. Patrick Mahomes' Rice stack on the under completions receptions did hit, but Josh Allen and Dalton on the overs did not hit together. So when these stacks do not hit in the same direction, you basically screwed and the slip gets completely sold. So this is the 3-1 slip there, and the other one, exact same thing here. 3-1 in here. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, easy cash on the overpass attempt receiving targets, but the unders on Goff and Brown did not pan through. I mean, Goff got these extra yards near the end of the game for almost no reason, and it's just unfortunate that these guys did not hit together. Amon and Goff pretty much hit all season together. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 games did not go in the same direction, and this was one of those. So very unfortunate. That could have been a nice 10xer there. But it's Monday today, so I do want to recap how the Discord went this week, and basically plus 13.3 units on price picks, minus 7.5 on underdog. So I did say I want to bounce back from this negative week on price picks, and it wasn't looking very good until this weekend started. We were up like 40 units at a point, and then as you can see down here, January 20th and 21st on the weekend kind of got wiped, minus 27 units. It was rough on the NFL this weekend, I'm not going to lie to you. So still happy that we're up on the week, and there's basically 1 week left of January, so we're going to see how we did on the month, how many units we're up. So 51 on price picks so far. Let's see how this last week goes. So that's just a little recap of the Discord. We'll get onto the board for today. I do have 6 NBA picks. Might be a bit of a long video for tonight, but let's start it off in the San Antonio game. It's actually going to be 3 picks from this same game here. So first we're going to go with Trey Jones on the under 7 assists. I think that's slightly too high, so we're taking the under here. 6.5 assists is where these sportsbooks have him at. Yes, they have juice towards the over, but honestly, FanDuel and DraftKings don't even have that heavy juice. It's not like a minus 150 or anything, so I'm pretty comfortable with taking the under 7. Caesars BetMGM and PointsBet do have heavy juice, but I still think it's a good spot for that under 7 assists. So obviously Trey Jones plays a bit differently nowadays. He is starting ever since like the beginning of the year. I think he started like as of January 4, he started being in the starting lineup. So not in this Memphis game, but everything else here. So you could see these high assist games and be a bit scared of taking these unders. But I mean, you look at the games here, Washington, Boston, Atlanta. These games are actually in his last 10 where he essentially started almost every game except this Memphis one. And he's cleared it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And this is actually a push here if we just bump this up here. So he has went over in these 3 games where he cleared it quite comfortably here, 12, 11, and 12 assists. But other than that, his averages are pretty much around that 7. And overall in the season, obviously it's a bit unjust to kind of go over that, but he has only cleared this 20% of the time this season. And I say it's unfair because obviously he's averaging way more minutes now than he was at the beginning of the season. But I mean, even at the beginning of the season, he still got some games where he was averaging pretty much as high as he is right now. So I do think 7 is a decent spot for him to grab the under. And I just think this is a perfect matchup, honestly, for unders at least. So Philly defense is 8th in points allowed, 7th in assists allowed. Very tough matchup. Philly is at home with a minus 14 spread. So like that's great to see when we're taking under, especially on the weaker team. This could absolutely be a blowout. I could see this being up like 20, 30 points by the half, right? So we want to be looking at these things when we're kind of projecting less minutes and just in general how these games will go. Now, one thing I will mention is that he did clear this line in sort of a similar matchup versus Boston, right? Boston is a tough matchup in a blowout game where he still got 27 minutes and still cleared that 11 assists. So, you know, it's kind of a good parallel for this Philly game. It's pretty similar. So if you guys are concerned about that, maybe fade this pick, up to you. But I think the 7 assists on the under is at least very good for a push spot. I was checking some minute projections on Trey Jones, and they're basically at about 32 minutes on this one site and then 31 minutes here. So he's pretty much projected at where he's been in the past 5 games here. So 30 to 32 minutes, he got 27 in this one game versus Boston. As I said, that's the one he actually still got 11 assists in. Let's just check in this season how he's done from 30 to 32 minutes. Obviously, I'm not going to do that small of a time frame, but I'll do like 27 to 33. So give a bit of a wiggle room on each side. And he has went over 45% of the time, so it still looks good on our under 7 here. For the second pick, I'm going to go with Sochan on the under 11.5 points as a decent pairing here with Trey Jones. We're taking Sochan pretty much for the same reason as Trey Jones. Tough matchup, I just went over. Philly 8th in points allowed, 7th in assists allowed, minus 14 spread. All those things I just mentioned for Trey Jones kind of going into why I'm taking Sochan on his under 11.5 points. You can take a look at some other things too, like his juice on every sportsbook, juice towards the under at around minus 120, which is not like crazy, but it's pretty decent, especially when you're pairing him up with Trey Jones and expecting a blowout in this case. So 43% of the time, he has actually went under this 11.5 assists. We could even check his last 10 splits with this sort of new lineup they have with Trey Jones in the starting lineup. Pretty much very similar here. 5 out of 10 games, he has cleared this. So nothing really leaning towards his over here. And then in general, we could check some minutes again. We'll put him at the same spot as Trey Jones, 27 to 33 minutes. And again, there could always be less than this if, you know, it does get really crazy. But 27 to 33 minutes, 48% hit rate. So literally nothing leaning towards the over in this case. So I am liking this under 11.5 as a nice pairing with Trey Jones. So that is going to be the second pick. So this is the first two, and we'll get on to the third one. It's going to be the last one from this game. I'm grabbing Joel Embiid under 13 rebounds. I think this is a really good spot. I think it's too high for him. You can see on FanDuel, like there's pretty much 50-50 chance on this here. Some slight juice on the other books towards the over 12.5. I think this prop should be set at 12.5. I'm not sure why it's set at 13, but it's too high. You can see it's pushed this 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is great push potential for us. He's only went over 6 out of the 26 times, excluding the push games, right? So 6 out of 26, looking very good for us. Yes, it's an easy matchup for Philly, since it's a hard matchup for San Antonio. Like, look at this, 29th in rebounds allowed, but I'm not too concerned about that. Like, within these games, he played easy matchups, like even versus Washington here, who I think is 30th in rebounds allowed. He still pushed at 13. And it's not really a minutes play. I do think he's going to play still 34-ish minutes. Obviously, it will help if he gets only 30 minutes, but even if he gets 34, I still think he clears this under 13. I mean, I can even show you guys if I bump this up to 34 plus minutes. He still only cleared this 18% of the time this season. So the minutes is not really what I'm concerned about. I just think the 13 rebounds might be a little bit too high. So with very good push potential on that one. We're going to go lock in Embiid as the third pick in this entry on the under 13 rebounds. The third pick I was going to grab was actually going to be from the popular tab. I saw Brook Lopez on the 5.5 rebounds. I'm assuming people were grabbing the over on that. I was actually going to go with the under, but he's not on the board anymore. I don't know if they're going to add him back, but under 5.5 rebounds on Brook Lopez was my fourth play. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do 5 picks in this video instead of the 6 because of that bump. My fifth pick was actually going to be Jaylen Duren on the over 12.5 rebounds assists. Now it's my fourth pick. So now we're going to go with 5 picks in this video. But Jaylen Duren, I'm really liking this 12.5 RA. You could see sportsbooks actually have him at 13.5. There's 2 with slight juice towards the under. The rest have pretty good juice. I mean, DraftKings all the way at minus 140 on his over 12.5 RA. And just so you guys, he's cleared the over 13.5 RA 59% of the time this season. And the 12.5, we get even better hit rates at 70%. You see how that 1 RA gives us an extra 3 games where he's clearing this. So that's why every point is going to count. And honestly, Milwaukee defense, not that tough. 19th in rebounds allowed, 19th in assists allowed. I don't think it's that tough of a matchup for Jaylen Duren here. The only thing of concern, obviously, is the blowout. The spread is at minus 12.5, but the Pistons are at home. Hopefully, they can keep it tighter throughout the game. They played twice this season, once where he cleared 17 RA and once where he cleared 10, so not too far off from that 13, yes. So a 2-game sample size here where he cleared once and did not clear the second time. But still, I think it's a decent spot for him, especially if the game stays a little bit tighter, maybe at the start of the game. Hopefully, it's not like a blowout within the first half. One thing to consider, a lot of injury news here. I don't think Cade Cunningham is going to play tonight. From what I read, he's going to take about 5 to 7 days, and that was 3 days ago. So I think he still needs like another 2 days of recovery time. Isaiah Stewart's also questionable, so I'm not sure if he's going to play. But honestly, whether these guys play or not, the minutes are essentially the same. I mean, he actually has more minutes with Cade Cunningham on average, at least. And with Isaiah Stewart, it's actually going to help him if he doesn't play. We're going to get increased minutes, at least on average, right? So I'm not too concerned about like the injury news. If anything, it's just going to help us. So 12.5 RA on Jaylen Duren is going to be that fourth pick. And we're going to end it off with a fantasy score pick. It's actually going to be on Khris Middleton. And Middleton is an interesting one. I'm grabbing his 34.5 fantasy score. And we'll take a look at the direction here. So on Khris Middleton, he has a lot of juice towards his unders on his points. So on his points, he's expected about 17 points rather than hitting over to that 18. On his rebounds, he also has heavy juice on the under 4.5. Only his assists have juice towards the over, but rebounds count for more than assists when it comes to fantasy score. And then the other thing that's in his favor is steals and blocks. So if he does get the 2, I think that could be a bit scary because a steal is worth 3 fantasy points. A block is also worth 3 fantasy score. If he only gets 1 steal or block this game, I think he's easily clearing the 34.5 on the under. So if you check his game logs here, he does get reduced minutes in these blowout games. Versus Boston here, this was the game where Milwaukee kind of blew out Boston and they rested their whole starters for the second half. He only played 20 minutes. Similar in this Cleveland game, big blowout here. 20 minutes. And you could argue this was a blowout game here versus Jazz where he still got 34 minutes. If you look here, Milwaukee did very well in that third quarter, so they had some momentum willing to play into that fourth quarter. They were only down about 10 points. So yes, this was kind of a blowout game, but it wasn't similar to these 2 games here where he only got 20 minutes. So what I'm saying, if this game does go crazy tonight and Milwaukee is blowing out the Pistons quite badly, Middleton is not going to be the one, getting more minutes in this case. So under 34.5 fantasy scores, what I'm rolling with. I'm also looking at this based on 2 projection models. One has him at 30.8 projected. So this is the FanDuel points, and FanDuel is exactly the same as Prizepicks in terms of how they calculate fantasy score. So 30.8 here, and then on RotoWire, he's actually set at 31.86. We have him all the way at 34.5. So So I do think the under is definitely to play here on Khris Middleton. The one thing against us here is Giannis is probable, so if he does not play, that's going to help Middleton's usage, and it's obviously going to help him go over his prop. But what I see here is that he did play last Friday with the same injury listing, and it didn't look like the injury was hindering his play. So basically, he's expected to play tonight, and that's going to help Middleton stay under, right? So we're going to go with this as the 5 picks. I did also throw in Brook Lopez under 5.5 rebounds if ever he comes back on the board, but this is kind of my 6th man here. Right now, he's not there. So I already locked in these 5 plus Brook Lopez in one slip. So these are the 5 picks for today. Trey Jones, Sochan, Embiid, Duren, and Middleton. Good luck, everyone.